Joining me in studio, Ron Perlman, legendary actor, Sons of Anarchy, Hellboy, Beauty and the Beast. He has been nominated for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series for an Emmy. He has won a Golden Globe, and he's also the author of Easy Street, The Hard Way, and I could actually go on and on and on. I mean, you've done a million movies, projects, TV shows. Welcome, brother. How you doing?
Great to be with you, Cenk. Great.
All right. So look, you're a progressive, and you're not messing around about it, and you like to take on Trump. So I want to talk about your career and your politics. Let's start with politics. So you have said some incredibly harsh things about Donald Trump. Well, you got a reputation as a
nothing commensurate with the harshness that is Donald Trump, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can't say enough bad things. I agree with you there. But has it had any effect on your career at all? Has that been like, hey, wait, we want to sell tickets to Republicans who like Hellboy too, and or no?
I can't tell. I mean, I'm doing just great career-wise. I've never done studio movies, so those are the ones who actually worry about the bottom line and palling around with activists. What was Sarah Palin's great line about?
Yes,
about palling around with, what did you call him?
I forget.
But anyway, I do a lot of independent cinema. I actually have a company that produces independent cinema. The TV networks that I've worked for haven't seemed to mind. They haven't seemed to react to it one way or the other. I mean, if there's such a thing as being Teflon with regard to being an activist and having a career in the public eye, I guess that's me, because it just hasn't seemed to have an effect one way or the other.
And how about conservatives? Do you think it has an effect on their career? Like we just did the show together, talked about the news. You mentioned James Woods.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're often crying about how, oh my God, Hollywood's so liberal. But he seemed to have a perfectly good career. He got hired on a million different projects. You ever sense any discrimination in Hollywood over that?
I think you're good until your movies don't make any money. I basically think that's the story,
Right.
Charlton Heston, was a staunch conservative in a liberal kind of town with a lot of liberal activists, and there's been very vocal people on both sides, as our dear president likes to say,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't been able to discern. Maybe in dark rooms and conversations that take place about who's going to get a role and who's not going to get a role, but I've never been privy to any of that, and I've never seen any evidence that it has a deleterious effect.
It's almost as if movie companies would like to make a profit, and so they will hire actors who star in movies that make money.
Well, I do know that they look at your Twitter numbers now.
Oh, they do? Is that right? I didn't know
They look
that.
at your Instagram numbers now. And if the part is down to two guys and one guy has 35 followers and one guy has 35 million followers, the guy with 35 followers is going to get the job. No, but that's a thing now. That's a factor. And I don't think they care like what it is here. You can definitely get into trouble. I mean, you can definitely. There's third rails out there, and I've watched people do it, and it's sad because we're living in a time now where we're being challenged spiritually on so many different levels that you're almost being invited to be to meet the outrageousness with outrage of your own, and it's very easy to cross the line, and you got to always be wary of that.
So what made you a Democrat in the first place? Were your parents Democrats? Where you grew up?
Lower middle class Jewish kid from New York City. My dad made $12,000 a year on his good years. I think one year he made $13,000.
Mm-hmm.
Got audited. It was crazy. No, that's not true. He didn't get audited. But
He's still under audit. Can't tell you about it.
Lifelong Democrats. Most of the people in my community were Democrats. It was I don't know where it all came from. I really can't identify that, but it just appealed to me from the get-go because it seemed to be it seemed to sort of be in line with a conversation about thinking about the other guy, about how if I have something to say and some power to wield, can I lift up the people around me who may not have that access to that voice and that power. It just innately has that potential, whereas the other party innately rules all that stuff out for an agenda that has to do with power and wealth and amorality.
What did your parents do for a living?
Well, my dad, when I was born, fixed televisions. He went door to door. $3 a house call, which is added up to $12,000 a year.
$3 a house call. Could you? Sorry to interrupt you, but could he have imagined that his son would then be in that TVs that he was fixing and gotten to the place that you are?
He died at 49. I was 19 years old, and this is a story that I tell. I'll try to tell it as quickly as I possibly can, but I was doing a production college of Guys and Dolls, and he came with the family on Thursday night, and we all went out and had a great time. And then he came back on Friday night by himself, and I came out from backstage. I said, "Pop, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here?" He said, "Nothing. I just wanted to see something. I'll see you tomorrow." And the next day we took a ride in the car, and he said, "I just came back to see if what I thought I saw, I really saw." I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I think you have to do this."
Oh, that's amazing.
And like a year later, he was dead. So it was almost like a death wish thing saying, "I'm giving you permission to pursue a very scary, very dangerous life where there's no guarantees and no security whatsoever." And it has meant the world to me. I mean, but that was a seminal moment.
Yeah, no, that's touching. And how about your mom?
My mom was a homemaker until I was a teenager, and then she went and got a job for the city of New York for the health department. Worked at the Bureau of Tuberculosis. I still have friends. If you need some tuberculosis, I can get you a discount.
No, I'm cool. I'm good.
I'm just saying, but yeah, she was a civil servant. My dad worked with his hands. In the last few years of his life, he went back and got a degree that enabled him to become a substitute teacher. He taught in a vocational school all the way to the time he died. So they were both kind of, just straight ahead, lower middle class New Yorkers, put together not a great deal of money, but played by the rules, lived by the rules, had a really cool kind of true north about them. They cared about folks and stuff, and I guess that's where the liberalism kind of got passed down.
Yeah. So was your family in the States for a long time, or did their parents come recently, and where did they come from?
Both Eastern European. My mom's family was from Poland. She was first generation American, so she was the only girl in her family that was born in the United States. She had four older sisters, all born in Poland. And my dad's family, my dad was about third or fourth generation Hungarian Jew. So his family had been around for a while.
Yeah, and not a lot of people know this because I think TV is a little bit misleading on this because they feature so many neoconservatives, et cetera. But Jewish Americans are the second biggest Democratic voting bloc in the country. African Americans are number one, Jews are number two, and then Latinos, Asians, et cetera. So they feature so many hawks who happen to be Jewish American on television that it gives a misleading impression. And right wingers who are like, "Hey, Netanyahu is great, Cheney's great, et cetera." No, they don't represent most Jews in this country. Jews in this country generally come from a very liberal tradition. And still vote 70% in favor of Democrats. So your background in that sense is not that surprising, right? And so what made you get into acting? Because you mentioned you were at 19, you were already doing the play.
Yeah.
Did you start earlier than that? And what sparked that for you?
I was already acting for 3 or 4 years by the time I did that college play. I got a role in a high school play when I was a junior, and the community of people that were putting on this play made me feel normal. I mean, this was the most neurotic bunch of people I've ever met, theater people. And it was like, you ever walk into a room and you go, okay, I'm home. Like, this is where I mean, when you feel like the least neurotic guy in the group and you're really neurotic, then you say, I'm good here. I'm going to stick around here. That plus the fact that the solving of the riddles that you have to solve in order to become a character and create a character and then have an effect on an audience was very kind of seductive to me and gave me a sense of real kind of power, in a childhood where I never really experienced anything like that. So it was a real aphrodisiac. And one thing led to another. I just went from play to play to play, high school, college, and then graduate school. So by the time I came to New York in '73, it was 8 years of stage training.
So do you remember what you would consider your first big break?
Well, my first movie, I guess, was Quest for Fire. 1979, I got that picture, and it was the only mainstream thing that had ever happened to me, because it was 20th Century Fox. I mean, they had to cover my face with rubber and make me completely unrecognizable in order for me to be effective in this thing, which kind of, but that might have been a message in a bottle. But I kept going anyway,
I think you were all right after that.
But it was actually like studio picture, mainstream, very, very interesting subject matter, very esoteric, very smart people surrounding the project, and that was when the magic. That's when I really started to get hooked on the magic of like how movies work, like being in the midst of one and being on the entire shoot, watching all these disparate, amazingly talented people come together to create one beautiful thing.
So, a lot of actors will say that they enjoy theater more than movies.
I would not be one of them.
You wouldn't. You like the movies better.
Yeah.
And it's because of that magic and how they put it all together?
No, it's the fact that you do a scene, and then when you finish shooting that scene, you never have to say those words again.
It's just too much repetition in theater.
For me to like get up 8 times a week and say the same thing after I thought last night was pretty good. Why would I want to do this again? Like there's nothing here to conquer.
Yeah.
Whereas in the cinema, you're constantly moving forward. You're constantly you get finished shooting a scene, you throw that scene out, and you're on to the next problem, and you solve all the problems over the course of either a month or 6 months, however long the schedule is, and you just been challenged to your core, engaged in all kinds of ways, in terms of figuring out who I am and how to give a decent performance and how to make it look like this guy exists in reality when he's nothing but an illusion. It's very trippy, and it's very, it turns me on. I mean, it makes me my favorite place to be is on a movie set.
That's great. So see, this is why people like Ron, because he keeps it real, right? Because a lot of people have airs about them and stuff. You clearly don't, right? You love this stuff. You're doing it. There's an amazing story about Hellboy. I want to get back to that in a second. But you mentioned solving problems and putting things together. You have your own company now, right?
Yeah.
So what's the name of the company? What does it do? And what are you guys working at?
The name of the company is Wing and a Prayer Pictures, and what it does is it loses money.
It's just me of keeping it real. And I, by the way, I feel your pain, brother.
Our first attorney said to me one day, because I said, we're going to be like the independent film company. We're gonna reinvent the wheel. He said, you know how to become a millionaire in independent cinema? I said, no. He says, start out as a billionaire. Yeah. So yeah, it's a tough haul. I love movies. I'm at the age right now where I can afford to do just things that I love with it. I don't have to worry about profits and how well they do. It's a question of filling me up with a sense of pride of ownership and identifying things that I think are beautiful and seeing if I could lift them up from the ground all the way to the poster. And I'm having a great time doing it. Wing and a Prayer Pictures.
So how do you find scripts, or how do you put it together, right director, et cetera?
Well, before I had the company, I was reading a lot of scripts from people who just wanted me to give my opinion. And some of them were so good that I would like start optioning them for myself, not knowing that one day I would have the ability to do something about it. I had an aspiration for it. And so when the company finally got going, I had a kind of a bunch of things that I wanted to get made. And then once people realize that you're making movies, man, you get a lot of mail and you get a lot of things to read, and you get to meet a lot of new voices and people who are so hungry and so untouched by the system that their voices are fresh and original and beautiful and not derivative of anything you've ever seen before. And every once in a while, they're worth dropping everything for and trying to get done.
So on a normal day, you might get up, grab a cup of coffee, insult the president on Twitter, and then read a script?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? That's a pretty good life, Ron. It's not so bad.
We'll go back to bed. A couple of insults, I'm good.
I like that.
No, it's
life.
a very, very, very good life. I'm a very happy man, Cenk. Very happy.
I love to hear that. So I interviewed Norman Lear, and I said, brother, you did it. I mean, you did it all. You had 7 out of the top 10 shows on TV at once, which is unbelievable. Nobody's ever going to come close to that again. So do you wake up every day with a giant smile on your face? And he's like, no, I'm still stressed. I'm like, no, Norman, you can't be stressed.
Yeah.
So I love to hear that you're having a good time. So
it's not as if I'm not stressed, but the good is far outweighing the bad.
Okay, good.
And I'm very cognizant of the fact that I'm one of the lucky guys.
So you have this special, interesting relationship with Guillermo del Toro, and so tell us a story about how he wanted to make Hellboy and put you in it.
Well, I had made Guillermo's very first film was this picture that he made in Mexico called Kronos, and so through a set of beautiful circumstances, I ended up being in his first film, and I was transfixed by how independent this felt and how beautiful it felt and how much artistry was emanating from this kid. Nobody knew who he was. And then watch the film come out, win Critics Week at the Cannes Film Festival, and all of a sudden, my instinct about the guy began to become shared by the rest of the world. And then we did Blade 2 together. Anyway, one day we're having dinner, and he says, hurry up and finish. I have to take you someplace. And he takes me to this comic book store on Sunset Boulevard and here in West Hollywood. And there's this kind of floor-to-ceiling maquette of Hellboy, a model. He says, I want you to be him. And I didn't know anything about him. I'm not a comic book guy. I didn't know anything about it. But I said, cool. And it took him 7 years of studios like slamming the door in his face because I was really unbankable. Nobody was going to spend the kind of money you need to make a franchise comic book movie on somebody who's not bankable. Nothing personal, just this is the way it works. Everybody's worth something, or everybody has the perception of being worth something, even though most of the time it's an illusion. And for 7 years, Guillermo just kept banging the same drum until finally he got somebody to agree.
But I mean, that's a hell of a thing, right? That
it's something I've never seen before in Hollywood. It's probably something I'll never see again. That kind of single-mindedness, that kind of devotion to an idea. The loyalty factor is, I don't even want to entertain that because that's almost too good to be true. But for him doggedly saying, I'm not going to make this movie unless you make it the way I want to make it, with who I want to make it. That doesn't happen in Hollywood.
Yeah. No. When they say, yeah, I like the movie, I want to do it, but I want to do it with Brad Pitt or whatever. And you draw a line and go, no, I'll wait 7 years until I get this guy because I believe in him. That's just unheard of.
And he did it.
Yeah, no, world of credit to him. And of course, it's a huge success. And he was right, and you guys were right all along. And and you were right for the role. So
Yeah, I wish I would have kept him as a friend, but you know, no, I'm kidding. He's
I was gonna say I didn't know. I was like, no.
nice for Hellboy. Get out of here. No. We're about to do a couple of beautiful things together very soon, so we're still chugging along.
What do you got coming out? Anything soon?
This fall, the BBC invited an American to come over there and work on, you know, the Queen's channel.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little miniseries, six episode miniseries called The Capture. It's about those surveillance cameras that are all over the UK,
Yep.
CCTV cameras. I play the head of the CIA division in the UK, and it's about photo manipulation and putting someplace that they weren't, putting somebody, you know. It's very cool, very cool. So that's this fall.
What is it called?
The Capture.
The Capture.
For
Okay.
BBC.
And you know, we're running out of time, but I thought for a second that you might have been playing a British guy. There's 1,000 reasons why I could have never been an actor. I'm good at memorizing political facts. I'm terrible at memorizing lines. Anytime I've ever tried it, I can't get past 2 lines. And I'm also hilariously bad at accents. So have you ever done accents?
Yeah, I do them for my own edification and enjoyment. I'm not saying they turned out very well, which gives you a lot of hope.
Okay.
But you know, I like to shake it up. I like to challenge myself, and you know, luckily I've gotten to this age where I really don't care what anybody thinks. So
God, I want to be there. That's such a good state to believe.
it's the only good thing about getting older. It's like, you know, the only good thing is like you know, most of your filters just like evaporate and fall away.
We do a show called Old School, which I told you about. I'd love to have you on, where I've been saying for 5 years straight now, like I can't wait to get to the point in my life where no holds barred. Okay, like whether it's age, money, some combination thereof, where I'm like, hey, listen, man, this is what I think. Sad day for you if you don't like it.
Yeah, well.
So Ron, in essence, what I'm saying is, one day I want to be you.
I'm almost ready to give me up, so you know, I'm happy to.
We might have a deal.
I'm happy to pass the torch. You say that now, but try walking in these shoes for a minute. I can't do this.
All right, Ron Perlman. Everybody check him out in The Capture and 1,000 other things he's going to have out real soon. Thank you for joining us on the Young Turks. We appreciate it.
What a pleasure.